to go out and become self-employed. That's a big deal.
Yeah. Don't even remind me.
And you did it in 2020. So
that was an accident. So I literally quit my job as an electrician 2 weeks before they announced COVID was a pandemic.
And were you in Canada at the time, or were you working in?
I was in Canada.
Okay.
And unfortunately, like, my whole tour got canceled. The tour that I had lined up and planned.
For motorcycle training?
Yes.
Okay.
And COVID hit, that got canceled, and I was like, well, okay, now I don't have my job, and I don't have this. So I went and I lived in the woods for 6 months in a tent. This
is why we're sisters on this. All right, we are here in the backcountry of Colorado, and I am really excited to share this episode with you all because we are outside. And when we first started this whole process, thinking about podcasts, I always envisioned or wanted to have it outdoors. Not always possible, but this one is. And we also get to share with you an incredible guest, Megan Griffiths, who I have followed for a long time on social media and online. She is, I would say, a genuine badass when it comes to the enduro riding, motorcycle sports. She's also teaching. She's sharing her passion with people. This conversation, to me, we're really getting to know her as an individual and what she's struggled with, where she's come from, things that are important to her. And this is why we do this. I love getting to know people in this way. So let's get started. All right, Megs, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me for the first outdoor podcast.
Yes.
That's super cool.
I'm really stoked that it's you, someone that I've followed for some time now. Obviously, you are, well, not obviously, I guess let's explain what you do. What do you do, Megs?
So essentially, I ride dirt bikes. And right now I'm traveling the country and teaching riding clinics in all sorts of different states. So
okay.
Yeah.
And is it like a specific type of riding or like, I know you said dirt bikes, right?
Yeah. So I'm specifically focusing on enduro. So enduro is generally trail riding.
Okay.
So it can be easy or it can be gnarly. The harder it gets, the more you get towards hard enduro. Okay. So hard enduro would be something like boulder fields and, okay, like rocky creek beds, really gnarly hills and just that kind of stuff. Okay. So enduro is just regular trail riding. Hard enduro is the extreme stuff.
Okay. And have you done that your whole life?
No. I started when I was 17.
Okay.
And I was a total noob. I knew nothing about dirt bikes. I was just flying by the seat of my pants. And it took me a while. I was pretty intimidated and slow getting into it. But I did eventually meet other people in the sport who were miles better than me. And that's where my growth as a rider really started.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, I would love to have, I guess, a little less fear, or maybe just the reality of sometimes when learning something that can hurt you, I find myself being very fearful of getting hurt. And then therefore I make mistakes because I'm so caught up in my head.
Yeah.
And I think that youth sometimes lends itself to not really having a concept of what can happen yet.
Definitely.
So you're willing to kind of push it a little more and then succeed and get better. But you mentioned you're teaching classes. So are people coming to you in a space like this, or are you going, like, what is a class involved for you?
It depends on the location, but it's usually on, a property like this, and it's just If it's a level 1 clinic, it's just an open field scenario. And I mean, people come from all over and like they're not always local, but.
And you're doing men and women, correct? It's co-ed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes we do all women. Sometimes it's co-ed, depending on the demand in the area. But.
And is it like a 1-day thing, or are they like camping with you as well?
It's usually a single day thing.
Okay.
But I do have a 2-day boot camp as well that I put on sometimes. So.
Is that for a more advanced, like you're gonna?
A little bit. We still cover a lot of the level 1 stuff, but we build a little further and go into a little more detail with the more technical skills.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's it's so, and I think with stuff like this, we've always talked about, or I mean, we're always talking about being prepared, and that's a big part of like as we move forward into different areas. But getting like the proper training for us has been invaluable, like, and we're continuing that. You know, we've gotten a little bit here and there, and then you kind of reach a point where you're like, okay, I don't know what we're doing anymore. So reaching out to somebody like you, and then having that you offer, not only do you do this as a recreation, you enjoy this, right? You've now transitioned it into, it's your business. This is your livelihood. So how long has it been your business?
So I started in 2020. That's when that's when I made the transition. I quit my job as an electrician and pursued this.
Okay.
So it hasn't been long, but I'm still going. I'm still eating
Still
every day. So
That's good.
it's working out.
I'm still alive.
Yeah.
Now, but was there a catalyst that like just made you finally like decide this is what it's time now?
Yes. So I have tried to make the transition a couple of times before this, and always fell back on my trade.
Okay.
But this time it had built up enough. I was working out of town, kind of a fly in, fly out scenario.
Okay.
And you live in a man camp, and you know there's like 5,000 guys there and 2 women, and it's just.
Wait, I think you got to back this up, because I think this is a concept that I don't think a lot of people have experience with. So you're an electrician, but this doesn't mean you're going to Betty down the street and, you know, fixing her with fixing a light switch.
No.
What were these jobs that required a man? You got to explain a man camp too.
Okay. So basically I worked in the oil field. So I'm building oil and gas plants. And it's very remote. So you got to fly in and stay in. It's called a man camp. So it's essentially just trailers that you live in. And it's pretty terrible. We won't go into detail, but it's very male dominated, which is fine to an extent. It does grow tiring sometimes.
Are there really only 2 women and like 5,000 men? Is it?
Yeah,
really?
I'm not exaggerating.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a hard lifestyle up there.
Yeah.
And not very many people are willing to do it.
Yeah.
So, but that's where the money is.
Gotcha.
So that's what I was doing for a long time, and it wore me down because I had no bike up there. I didn't have my dog. It was a really tough lifestyle. So, you know, couple other things happened as well, but eventually it was like, I've had enough.
Yeah.
It was like a switch.
Was it definitely you wanted to teach? Was that something that just was becoming naturally to you?
Yeah, I was building on this for a long time. Okay. So I didn't just snap and quit my job. And I had been building my social media platforms, and I have a YouTube channel where I was posting tutorials and stuff like that. And I was growing my audience. And then I also had a tour already planned out and had taught clinics in the past just as a side gig. So I was very prepared for it.
That's right. I have really pushed back on teaching as I have a hobby doing something very different, definitely not as extreme, but I find that transition or that decision to start teaching very fascinating. I haven't quite made that, and I don't even know if that's my calling. I'm not even going to say that that's what I need to be doing, but I just find that interesting, that what makes you decide to go, okay, I'm gonna become this person or a different version, take on new attributes, and become a teacher.
Well, I always knew I wanted pursue dirt biking as a career in some way. And then I've kind of found a passion for teaching when I started making video tutorials, because I really enjoy breaking down skills and techniques for myself so that I can learn and get better. But then I started making videos and sharing it with an audience, and people were liking them. And, you know, I was getting good feedback, and I started to think, oh, okay, I could do this. So that's the direction I went in the industry, teaching, and it's working.
I'm assuming there's a joy that's derived from that process. But like at the end of a class, what makes you schedule another one? Like, what is there something that you take away from each class, or a feeling, or something that makes you want to come back and do it again?
Yeah. So you usually, if all goes well, you see a massive improvement in the students from, 9 a.m. until we finish around 4. And everyone's stoked. Everyone wants to go home and do drills, whether they do or not, I'm not sure. But they say they want to. And, it makes me happy to know that I'm sharing the passion for building our skill set and, getting better and being able to tackle gnarlier terrain. And it's really fun to share that and kind of get people more excited about the sport.
Yeah, you're inspiring people. Like you're tangibly watching your what you do is able to inspire people to move into another area or move into something better. That's awesome. And that's really cool. I know you and I have chatted a little bit here and there, and it's being able to inspire somebody to like push beyond what their perceived boundaries were is like one of the, it's, I guess I don't want to overstate that it's like a superpower, but it's like one of the things that all humans have, if you put your mind to it, or if you're open to opportunities. But you can share with people what you have, what you've learned, what your life is. Yeah. And then you can, like, in a sense, like change people, inspire them. And I know I've been watching you, and so has Liz. And as we've now jumped into this motorcycle endeavor for the last 6-7 months, and scaring ourselves every time we do something. But I guess I'll share this with you. You're this, like, the goal. I don't know if I'll ever do some of the stuff that you do, but I would like to at least have the tools to understand what you do. And then maybe someday we'll get there. Yeah. But it's really fun to watch someone at your level do what you're doing. And it's very much got this fearless element that you take on with how you tackle things. Mm-hmm. And that's inspiring.
The thing is, it seems like there's no fear involved, and it seems like, people that ride this way are kind of just not intimidated, but everything's very calculated and taken step by step. I mean, in the beginning, I would see a log this big and just like, oh, there's no way, that's impossible kind of thing. And, I had a mentor in the sport that opened my mind to what was possible on a motorcycle. And now it's like, the bar just keeps getting raised, and sharing that and giving people that whole, oh man, like I can do that. And like, that's what I love about it. It's just, that's what happened to me in the beginning with my mentor. And now I'm doing that for others. And it feels good and it's fun, man. Like, I really enjoy it.
Is there anything that still scares you, or something that you're like, totally, I want to overcome that or get better at that?
Yeah, I mean, not any specific skills. Like, there's skills I suck at that I need to work on. But there will be certain scenarios out on the trail that I'll be shaking, like.
Okay, so that doesn't go away?
No, it just gets, what makes you feel that gets to be like something that's a lot more advanced, okay, right? And so I still have those moments all the time. But I always make a judgment call, like, can I see a positive outcome here? Like, can I visualize me getting through that? And sometimes the answer is no. And I'll take a step back and I'll go around or whatever. But I always think very, carefully before I do something I'm that intimidated by. And, it takes a while to progress. But.
Well, and I would think with the hard enduro things you're doing, like, there's always going to be something on the horizon that you're going after as far as like getting better at or tackling a new style of obstacle or terrain or whatever.
Yep. I'm always picking a new skill. It's called dedicated practice. So I'll take something that I'm terrible at In the beginning, it was cornering. That was my weak point. And then I focused on cornering for 2 years and got that better. And then I found another weak point, logs. And I'm obsessed with logs. Anyone who follows me, people even tell me to quit posting logs. But never. But logs were my nemesis in the beginning. And then I got to the point where, all right, now I'm going to tackle every log. And so you pick a skill and then you work on it. And then that's not your weak point anymore, and you move on. And that's how you become a well-rounded, skilled rider.
Yeah, I think on this end of it being so green, everything just seems insurmountable. It's like, I'm just trying to get down there. I'm just trying not to fall off when I stop. I mean, I told you the story. So I put a med bag in a new spot and caught my leg as I was coming off of it. And I'm like, I'm dead stopped. I've parked. I'm there is like nothing is happening. And all I did was just like do my normal dismount and got hung up and ended up on the side of the road. And I'm like, okay, this shouldn't be happening anymore, right?
It totally happens to all of us.
Okay, that's good to know.
I crash in my clinics sometimes. Like,
okay,
don't feel bad.
You're like, don't do this part of the.
Yeah, I'll just laugh it off and be like, that's what not to do. So
back to starting the business, and I know just from our personal conversations, but I love that this is part of your story. You're here now in the States, but that's not always been the case. Where are you originally from?
I'm from BC up in Canada.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I came down to the US on a work visa to do electrical work.
Okay.
Back in 2018 and fell in love with this place. Like, I absolutely love it here. So I found my way back, and now I've been here for a couple of years. I came down permanently in 2020.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I find it interesting that you kind of made a transition, not because you wanted to escape something, but just making a shift. But what did you fall in love with here in America?
So I came down to Texas. So that was my, like, where I went on the work visa and kind of fell in love with the place. And it was definitely the people and just the vibe. I felt like you could really flourish and like kind of get ahead down here. And I just fit in. I don't know. I just really like it. People are going to be saying that I'm unloyal to Canada for what I'm saying, but I'm truly proud. I'm a permanent resident working on citizenship, and I'm very proud to be here.
Oh, that's awesome. I think, and you can love both places. I don't think,
for sure.
Yeah, I don't think there has to be one or the other. And I think our proximity to Canada kind of makes it a very, I don't know, but there's just a closeness with that country. I think a similarity that we share with them.
Yep.
So, yeah, there's no disloyal. You're not being disloyal at all.
No.
So as I had referenced earlier, my only interaction with you was following you on social media, which I recommend everybody go and do. Meg's Braps. But I mean, you do a great job of showcasing. But we were just kind of chatting about when you are solo, as you are often, it's hard to capture yourself, the subject of what you're showcasing on your social media when it's just you. I mean, especially with a motorcycle, because I've just a couple times been like, oh, it'd be really cool to get myself just driving from point A to point B. And it's like, oh, I need somebody or I need a cameraman or all this stuff. So you do a great job, I think, of capturing that. And I enjoy watching it.
Thanks.
But would you be willing to talk about like kind of your life, what it looks like day to day or without the teaching aspect, just like when you're traveling from clinic to clinic?
Yeah. So it's very busy. I mean, I'm traveling a lot. So a lot of my time is spent behind the wheel, which is fine for me. That's kind of my decompression time. And, I definitely don't ride for fun as much as I'd like to, but that's okay because I'm still doing what I love and I know that's going to change. I mean, for the most part, I don't know, I'm just kind of hair straight back with the whole clinic thing. And, I get to a location 3 days early so that I can scope things out.
You're working with natural terrain every time, right? You're not you're not working at a park or some type of a terrain park or whatever.
Yeah, it's always just like natural terrain and it's different every time. So I got to get there early and I got to scope it out and then set it up. And if it's a level 2 clinic, there's a lot more setup involved. So that's what I'm doing a lot of the time. And I think people think I'm just out riding and training, which I wish I was. But I do enjoy setting up. And, I've got the dogs with me. So I also spend a ton of time with them, just hiking and taking them out. They are the reason I'm still sane. I love them to
They do
pieces.
keep us sane, that's for sure. We've done a couple of trips where we didn't have our dogs with us, just because it was complicated with what we were trying to accomplish, and so we were like, oh well, this time we'll just leave them all at home. And it was kind of a long trip,
Oh, yeah.
and we paid dearly for that one. I think everyone's psychological health just
Yeah.
deteriorated. We didn't realize how much we needed them around and how beneficial they are. Like,
Yeah.
if I know you are solo, like you like your solitude, you like that
Yeah.
quiet time.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know, there's just something like, they're just a great companion for that, even though you like to be alone. But the dog's special. For
Yeah, the
sure.
dogs don't count. Like, they do not intrude on my mental well-being.
I feel like you have to talk about these guys because your dogs are amazing. So you got two. What are their names? And
Yeah, so there's Moose and Sage. Moose has been with me for 9.5 years. He's 10 now. I got him when he was 6 months. And Sage, I recently just found. She was a stray. Some house down the road from where I live in Texas had a litter of white puppies, and they just released them.
oh,
So I found her. She was 100% stray. She had fleas, she had mange,
Oh,
her
man.
tail was broken. So I scooped her up, and I was like, I cannot have another dog. Obviously, that would just be crazy. I'm traveling. I live in my truck. At the time, I didn't even have the trailer. And I was like, I'll find her a home. And 2 or 3 days later, I had a name for her, and I knew it was all over. Like, I was protective of her. I had a few people be, oh, I know someone who could take her, and I'm just like, beat it.
no, she's mine now.
Yeah. So now I have 2, and so Sage is 1.5 years now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So those are your travel companions. Because you're all over. You were just on the East Coast recently, or at least you spent a good amount of time back there.
Yeah, I was on the East Coast from about March until last a week ago. And then I made the big drive here, and now from here I'll be slowly heading west for the rest of my tour.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where will you land? Like, where will the finished?
So I'm actually gonna go back to BC
Oh.
for the first time in 2 years.
Okay.
I haven't seen my family in a long time, so I'll go up there and then, take a bit of a breather from the clinics, come back down the West Coast, and then, start heading back to Texas.
So in the moto space, I mean, I know you're specific to one genre, but I think like the off-road community, there's a lot of very visible men in the community. And I know for us, at least, there's just a higher percentage of men that participate in the off-road activity. I would assume that's very similar in motorcycles as far as a percentage.
Yep, I think so. I mean, I'm definitely noticing more women getting into it.
Yeah.
I think with social media and people being able to get out there and show what they're doing is helping to inspire women to get into it, because dirt biking is kind of an intimidating sport to get into, and a lot of women are less than excited to jump into power sports.
Right. Strength is a big issue, I think.
For sure.
A lot of women don't feel strong enough to be able to manage the bike and an obstacle. And so to me, that's been a fear thing in a lot of ways.
That is a huge part of, especially enduro over say motocross. Right. Physical size becomes an issue, and strength. Because, of course we say, oh, you got to have good technique. You don't want to be man handling the bike, or woman handling the bike. But it always comes down to that at some point. And strength and leverage is always going to be beneficial. So being small is definitely a bit of a handicap, but there are ways around it. And I think that's partly why I love the sport so much, because it's so challenging. It's incredibly inconvenient to ride hard enduro as a tiny person. And for some reason, I don't know why, but I like that. I'm like, I'll get it, but I think helping to show that online might help other people.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely whether or not they go out and look just like you when they, that's their goal. It's just the fact that oh, you can do that. And that's been a thing for us as as we've moved into more visible roles with just being adventurous and showcasing that. And I feel like we're sisters in that sense, like we're kind of the same cloth in a way. But that's what we've really noticed, is that women are just responding. And I know the numbers are small maybe in the grand scheme, at least in my perspective. But we're watching growth be consistent, and I'm watching them like influence each other as it goes. So this thing that we're participating in by going, hey, like, if you're interested in this, like, this is what it could look like. Just encourage women to be a part, or to go after things that challenge them. Just because it's challenging doesn't mean you can't do it.
Yeah.
You got to really want it. I always hear all the excuses, and I'm like, well, then you don't really want to do it.
Yeah,
you're not really,
absolutely.
You got to work for it.
I totally agree. Yeah, it's a good thing I'm stubborn, because, I've fought through a lot of hurdles to get to where I am today, and I know there's lots of women and just anyone in this sport doing the same thing, but you gotta be a certain type of person. You need to be strong and dedicated, and I guess just stubborn in a sense. It's hard.
It is. I think as women, sometimes we feel the struggle a little different too. I think we and not, it's not right or it's not wrong. It's just how we kind of navigate emotion, how we navigate experiencing our interactions with other individuals. And unfortunately, social media, I know it can be kind of gnarly sometimes when it comes to feedback from individuals who you may not even know, which is always the strangest thing.
Yeah.
And yet you kind of have to exist in that space. Does your stubbornness kind of let you just tune that out, or do you find yourself kind of going back and forth with it?
I do my best to tune it out, but it does get to me. I've been making my way in the industry in a little bit of a different fashion than usual. Most people work their way up through racing, and I have a pretty solid background in racing, but I haven't been racing for a few years now. And a lot of people don't like that. They don't
really?
like it's. I've thought outside the box, and people don't like to see me having success. I say it like this because it depends on who you're talking to. Many people would see, if they knew the reality of my life, they wouldn't consider that success. But people see what I'm doing online, and they're like, well, why does she have this sponsor? Why does she get to live this lifestyle if she's not racing, kind of thing? So I do take a lot of backlash, and that wears me out, because I'm really passionate about what I'm doing, and I really want to spread the love for the sport. And when people get the wrong idea and think that I've had handouts and that I don't deserve where I am, it's like right in the feels. So it does affect me, and I try to hide it, but it wears me out.
Yeah. What gets you through that?
I think it's just because I truly, really love riding, and I will never stop elevating my skills and sharing it with others. I don't think anyone could bring me down enough where I would be like, all right, that's it. I love it enough, I think.
Where do you see this going? I know you'd like the clinics to continue. That's obviously a passion for you, teaching. Is there like a goal with where you'd like to go with everything?
So my clinics, like, I'm kind of living in the moment right now. I'm building my clinics, and with that, I'm building my media and my presence in the industry so that more people want to come take my clinics. And I do plan to take the clinics international eventually, which will be super cool. But I'm also, I'm building a website right now in the background where I can offer, some other like tutorials and stuff like that online. So I'm kind of building something where, if I'm not teaching clinics every single weekend, I'm still good, kind of thing.
Gotcha.
So stuff like that.
So still all in the education lane and sharing.
Yeah, I just like it. It's my jam.
No,
Although
that's cool.
I do want to take a year off and follow the race circuit like one of these years coming up.
Also, get back into racing?
Yeah, just because racing is the best way to better your skills.
Okay.
And build your stamina and all of that. But I also kind of miss it.
Okay.
It's been a while. And
how long ago was that you were doing that?
I think 2017. I raced a little bit in 2018 and 2019 as well, but I was racing like a lot back in 17, I think.
What kind of racing was it, I guess, when you started?
So technically the races I was doing were called cross country or hare scrambles.
Oh, I don't know what this is.
Yeah, so it's very similar. Enduro riding versus enduro racing is different.
Okay.
So real quick, like enduro racing is a very specific type of racing with weird timekeeping and like special tests and transfer sections and all that. Okay. Cross country and hare scrambles is just like the gun goes off and you're gone until they pull your tag kind of thing. So you just race until the checkered flag.
And are you like across the desert racing, or are you?
No, so woods racing, single track. Okay. In the woods kind of stuff. Yeah.
So where you could naturally kind of encounter the things that are then put in place in the more like technical, I don't know, when you're trying to go over certain things for time.
Yeah, it'll just be like rocks and rocky sections, and there'll be down logs and just like basically it's just people going as fast as they can through a single track loop, which is, if it's a hare scramble, there are multiple loops of a shorter course. If it's a cross country, it's a longer one big loop or maybe two bigger loops,
I came across, and this is totally off topic and kind of silly, but it was the craziest. It was something I couldn't stop watching. It was, I'm going to assume, some type of an enduro race, but it was done in like a wooded area, boulders, huge boulders, like waterfall style boulders.
Yeah.
But it was actually raining and they were turning into mud waterfalls. And these guys were like traversing up these muddy and slipping and falling, and bikes are flying, humans are flying. It was, yeah. And so is that, that seemed very extreme. Is that kind of all in the same lane as?
Yeah. So depending on the race you saw, it could have been a hard enduro race.
Okay.
Or
it looked impossible.
Yeah. Even some hare scrambles in cross countries get pretty gnarly like that. Okay. But usually if it's that crazy looking, it's a hard enduro race.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you started racing, I realized you weren't doing mud waterfalls.
No, oh my Lanta. My first racing experience was terrible. I was terrible.
How long had you been riding to when you started racing?
About 3 years.
Okay.
But keep in mind, it was 2.5 years on Forest Service roads, scared to fall kind of thing. And then I met people out there that were like, oh, and they started teaching me, or not so much teaching me, but dragging me along and and showing me what's possible out there. And then I got into racing, and I was an all right rider. I wasn't a total beginner, but the races are tough. Like, everybody underestimates how tough races are. And I certainly did. I got lapped by everyone in my class, had like a burn on my arm, and it was horrible. And then I just wanted to do it again. I don't know why, but
no, I love it. There's this challenge, and if you saw something, and if you had some natural skill to it, like if there's like something's clicking in here. I may not be great at it, but something's clicking. Like, all right, I think I can get better at this.
Yeah,
I don't know, that kind of creates a hunger, I think, for different activities, even when they seem out of reach. It's like,
definitely
racing, I think, is one of those things that could be very intimidating.
Yeah, kind of. The beginning's always super intimidating and stressful. You're all lined up, right? And everyone goes at once, and it seems crazy. But once you get out there, everyone spreads out, and it's just you against the terrain. And it's really like once you're racing, your instincts take over, and you just do what you need to do to get through it.
Because you're just competing against the course at that point.
Pretty much, yeah. Especially in the beginning. And then, as you get better and the competition's tight, you're battling. But it's still really just, I don't know. It's not as stressful as you think once you're out there.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Well, what's drawing you back in? I know you said you enjoy it, and you kind of just miss it. But is it the competitiveness, or is there something about just the challenge of saying you're racing again, like just to jump into that?
It's not the competitiveness. I don't like the competitiveness. I like battling against myself.
Okay.
And the reason I want to get back into it is because I want to better my skills. And throwing yourself into the races there's no better way to get better. It forces you.
Yeah.
And I also miss it. I don't know. I kind of miss the excitement. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. I'm excited for you to do that. That we get to follow
We'll see,
along on
yeah.
that adventure.
Yeah.
Because that'll be interesting to watch. Because that's like just all this stuff is very new to what I'm doing. I don't know. I grew up. I had a brother who did like motocross out in the desert.
Yep.
But when I came along many years later, there's a big gap between us. But when I came along, my mom was like, "Yeah, she's not going to get on a motorcycle. That's not that's not what we're going to do." And then life shifted, and the bikes kind of just disappeared because life changed. And I always kind of had this. I mean, I remember my dad had a few pairs of old motorcycle boots that just like floated around the garage in different places as I grew up. And I always remember I would always put them on. And I was like, I wanted to do this. And then you become an adult and other priorities, come into your life and you move away from them. But motorcycles, I definitely romanticized the idea of getting a bike.
Yeah.
And so kind of thought it was not in the cards for me. Just life was crazy. I'm doing so many other things. And it's like, I just don't have time but it was always there. So to kind of come back and get a bike and then capture this love, or I guess it's a dream.
Yeah.
A dream of, it seems so cliche, but this dream of getting on two wheels. And I don't know, like really, I don't have like a goal of what it looks like when I've reached it, but just doing it has been such a huge thing. It's just like, I don't know where we're going with this or how long I'm gonna be able to keep this up, but we're doing it.
Yeah.
And at every opportunity. And so we're excited that like an opportunity to work with you and to get to experience what you have to offer for us it's life-changing for us. For me, it is very much so. This is something that, I don't know. I just didn't think I was going to be a part of. So
I'm so glad you got
into it. You're a part of my journey.
That's awesome. I can't wait. It's going to be such a good
is.
class. It'll be fun.
No, we're going to have a lot of fun. We'll have to do like a recap at some point to be like, remember when you made us do this?
Yeah.
Is there anything that like in the classes that like just always causes problems? People always struggle with? I'm saying for my own fear of what's coming.
Honestly, not really, because the class is very based on progressive learning. So each skill we learn is kind of a building block for the next. And so I try to give everyone the tools they need for the next thing. And then that meshes with the next thing. I try to keep people from being like, just totally failing at any of the drills we do. You definitely don't have to be worried. And now for intimidation factor, maybe like the wheelie drill or the log punch. Yeah, we're going to be doing wheelies. It'll be sick.
Okay. I wasn't briefed on that. No, I'm excited. There's something now I'm nervous.
My bad.
No, what's fun is and I know Liz and I are kind of on this motorcycle journey together, and I think there's kind of been, we definitely approach things differently, and her and I know that, and how we see things. And I know sometimes she's like, I can see her being like working through the problems, and there's a little bit of like, she's starting to go, oh my gosh, this is coming, and I can watch the panic build. And not that I'm not panicking, but I have learned this defensive mechanism where I just bury it until I absolutely have to deal with it, which will be when the helmet gets put on and like we start the bikes and you start, and then I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, what are we doing?
Don't worry.
But
honestly,
I'm excited. I'm excited. So we feel the same things, but we just experience them differently.
Yeah.
And being in your motorcycle riding, all off-road sports are like this, is so much of it is in your head.
Totally.
It's even though it's such a physical sport and demands physical, you have to be present for that. That is, you can't take that for granted, because I'm sore every time I ride. But like, I find like my biggest hangups are always the psychological game.
Yeah. And so many people are in the same boat. And especially in the clinics. I notice it all the time. And that's kind of another reason why it's so progressive, because I don't want anyone to feel like they don't have the tools to do something. If you have the why and the how for whatever we're going to do next, it's a lot easier to not be so in your head and just kind of overcome that a little bit.
Yeah.
And we will be doing that. Like you will, if all goes well, hopefully you're not feeling fear, but you're feeling just progression and maybe excitement. But not
So
fear.
now I'm shaking. There we go. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm really excited. Again, I think kind of I'm holding on to that, like the dream of like we're actually doing this. So when I start to feel like oh my gosh, I don't know if we can do that. Like that's scary, or I'm feeling the fear. I try to just like grab onto the joy of, oh my gosh, we're doing this. Like we're actually making this is happening. We're getting to do this. And again, I don't have like it has to look like this or it has to end and I have to be at this level.
Yeah.
I think if I keep waking up in the morning and we have the opportunity to keep riding and learning, like, well, then we do it. And when it's time to stop, we'll stop, whatever that looks like. But
yeah,
I'm excited.
Yeah. I mean, there's never really an end goal. There's always so much. You can always take it further.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just keep moving. Yeah. And we experienced that, I think, with this adventure, like with our trucks and building them out and getting out, doing all this stuff that we do. That's why we're constantly like, all right, what's the next thing that like, and like I said in the beginning, like we're looking for things that scare us now because we found that we gain so much perspective by working through that.
Yeah.
And I think that's been one of the biggest life lessons we've taken away. I don't know, just as we're getting older. I'll be 40 this year. So it's like this, while I don't feel 40 at all, I think I'm like starting to become very introspective on things and like, all right, what is life? Like you've gone through 40 years. Like, was it worth it? And like, how many more do you have? And not in a dark way, but like in a, like, let's take responsibility for what's coming. Yeah. And I just want to really live in the moment. I feel like you do that. I feel like I know you say you fly by the seat of your pants, but
I do, but it's all for a reason. And the reason is to squeeze every last bit of fun out of life. And when I was working up north and, hating my life for a while there, I was really, really unhappy. The whole reason for making this jump into being self-employed and, having no, safety or consistency, it's like, the whole reason is so that I can at least enjoy what I do every day. Wake up in the morning and be like, yes, sick. Like I want to get out of bed and go do this. Whereas up there working in the oil field, it was just like, I hated waking up in the morning. Like, I mean, that being said, it was very tough work environment. It was like minus 50 degrees and really crazy stuff. Yeah. So it was like
you like extreme environments.
Yeah, it's one or the other, right? Like doing what I love or like a total hellhole. Like, am I allowed to say that?
Oh, yeah, you're
fine. But yeah, the whole reason for making this change is to, enjoy the time I have. So,
and I think that's what I love watching about you. I think you, again, I keep saying you embody all these things, but there is something very just, we love seeing where you're going with all of this and seeing the drive you have and the passion you have for what you do. And then also for sharing that with others. And so it's really cool. I think it's brave of you though, to take a step out of the norm. You decided to walk away from something that I know, those contracts those are hard to get, right? That not there's a lot of competition to get on those jobs.
Yes.
Because they typically pay well because they're hard.
Yeah, for sure. And I fought tooth and nail to get up there in the first place because as a woman, and you're probably not even going to believe this, but I'd get people say, oh no, we need a distraction on site when I'm applying, right? Stuff like that. So I fought so hard to get there. And then I lived that lifestyle for like 7 years. And it was like, all right, I realized money, although money can buy happiness for sure in ways, I will never deny that. But having more money and having that consistent job and that sweet job wasn't worth it. It just wasn't. Now I struggle more financially, and And I am a creature of habit and I like to have consistency. So that was really hard for me to let go. And it was the last couple of years have been really hard. I don't show it online, but it's been tough, but it's still worth it. Like I'm still a happier person, and I feel like this can be just as consistent and bring in what I need, just like my gig up north did, eventually.
That mental sanity, or the finding joy in what you're doing, and I mean, we can struggle through misery for a time, I think.
Yep.
We have the ability and the tools to do that, but it does weigh on you. That takes a toll. And as a society, it's been so easy just to be so focused on making money or to be successful, have it look, it needs to look like, here's the page in the magazine, and if I don't look like that, it's not successful.
Yeah.
But kind of taking a step back, doing what you did and kind of going, oh, this is great. I'm grateful, but I'm missing something that this isn't sustainable for me anymore. So I'm going to make the change. And that's a brave change, to go out and become self-employed. That's a big deal.
Yeah. Don't even remind me.
And you did it in 2020. So
that was an accident. So I literally quit my job as an electrician 2 weeks before they announced COVID was a pandemic.
And were you in Canada at the time, or were you working in?
I was in Canada.
Okay.
And unfortunately, my whole tour got canceled. The tour that I had lined up and planned
for motorcycle training.
Yes.
Okay.
And COVID hit, that got canceled, and I was like, well, okay, now I don't have my job and I don't have this. So I went and I lived in the woods for 6 months in a tent. This
is why we're sisters on this. It all makes sense.
I didn't want to spend money. I was renting an apartment, right? So and I had money saved. I saved money, but I didn't want to waste that. So I lived in the woods. And as soon as I was able to get
in the woods.
back doing my teaching, I went on tour again, you know, and that saved me. Like, it was crazy. It was wild.
Just like having that mission saved you, as like that's what you wanted to do, so that project.
Well, living in the woods literally saved me financially.
Oh, okay.
And got me through so that I could, when things opened up a little bit, I could go do the tour, and I hadn't exhausted all my funds.
That pivot into taking in that 6 months.
But everyone thought I was crazy.
Where did you live in the woods?
Oh God. So I was essentially squatting on public land, but it was a riding area, okay.
And she moved every 14 days. It was fine.
Yes. I definitely didn't build a bathroom and a shower up there.
There were no rules in 2020 when it came to outdoor living. Let's just
right. And it wasn't a riding area, and I was out there with my chainsaw, like maintaining trail, and like I'm a member of the club and everything. So when I did get reported, which I did for squatting, the guy came up, and he was like the head trail guy, and he sees me and he's like, Megs, it's you? You're the weird squatter?
You know,
and I
the guy.
like, oh, hey, please, I'm just going to be
surviving.
here. Yeah, just 3 more months, please. And he was like, all right.
You take care of the trails and we'll let you stay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's too funny. It was such a strange time for the outdoor community, because a lot of people, I mean, not a lot of people, but people did take that option to kind of like, if you had kind of the setup to go camping, a lot of people did long-term camping trips, and just kind of was like, well, this is what I'm going to do now. I think it's interesting too how and this is totally off topic, but how that's transitioned everybody to be a little bit more remote.
Yeah.
And then also kind of blossomed, or this explosion of this love of outdoor stuff.
Yeah.
It does kind of seem like its catalyst may have, or it really got accelerated with 2020 and people kind of being forced to go, okay, I want to get out of the city. I want to get away from this stuff. I want to go enjoy nature again. Our normalcy kind of got stripped away and everything felt very chaotic and regardless of where you fell on all the whole thing, it was just like, it was a strange time for everybody. So I totally understand that I'm just going to go live in the woods mentality until I figure this out.
Yeah, it was definitely, I'll never forget that summer, that's for sure.
No. You've transitioned recently to living, when you're traveling, you're living in it's like a motorcycle trailer,
Yep.
but you've built that into kind of a living situation as well.
Yeah, so it's built out so that it's got a partition wall separating the bikes and the fuel and the stuff like that from my little living area. And now I have a bed. I did 2 years in the truck.
This is impressive. You slept in.
Again, when people act jealous of my lifestyle, I just have to think to myself, like, you would never want this. Quit being jealous. But
You
yeah,
put in the work. You definitely
for
did.
sure.
Yeah, you were grinding it out for a long time. And I know success is relative, but it is cool to see you just living your dream.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate the support.
It's really amazing to watch what you do, regardless of being a female. It's just like you're watching a human being do things with that piece of machinery that is wild. So it's very entertaining. But I really appreciate you spending the time with me and hanging out. And this, I think we've got a lot planned for the coming days. So I know we're going to get to know each other even better.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
I'm looking forward to it, though. I think this whole thing is going to be a moment that kind of changes, not to overly exaggerate, but kind of changes the game for both of us with the motorcycles. So we're looking forward to it.
I think you're going to get addicted to it, and then it's just going to turn into this thing where you're like, next year you're racing. And
oh, shoot. You heard it here first.
Big thing.
You heard it here. Liz is like, no, we're not racing. No, well, who knows? Who knows? I mean, my life right now, sometimes it's like, how did I get here? This was not in the plans.
Yeah.
So, but thanks again for coming.
For sure. Thank you for having me.
And I wanted to, you mentioned a YouTube channel, and I know you're on Instagram. What are those handles? Where can people find you?
So YouTube is Meg's Brap and Instagram is Meg's Brap. And then there's a big, Facebook is Megan Griffiths Racing. Okay. Because they won't let me change my name. Facebook is so annoying. But yeah, Megan Griffiths Racing. Okay.
And then that's where if people wanted to specifically go after your clinics, how would they find information on that?
The link to like the sign up pages and everything are on my platforms. Awesome. So yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
That's great. Well,
thanks
again. Thank you all for listening. And sorry, Mike Glover, we just ran out of time.